Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for Great Pretender Episode 2. I keep wanting to say The Great Pretender, but that's not what the title is. The title is just Great Pretender and it's kind of messing with me. Speaking of messing with me, wow, what a first episode and a nice little twist to it. If there's one lesson that I want to take away from that, it is that we need to be paying attention. And if there's a second lesson that I want to take away from it, it's that even if you're paying attention, a good con can use everything that you're paying attention to pull the wool over your eyes. In the first episode of Great Pretender, we met Edamuro Makoto, who believes himself to be the greatest criminal in Japan, truly the greatest con man that has ever been, and that opinion is bolstered by his older, more experienced palo friendo, who keeps telling him that he's the greatest criminal that has ever been. And after rewatching the episode, which I did just this morning, I realized that that's probably part of the plan, is to get him on his high horse, you might say, and thus allow us to pull the wool over his eyes. We also ran into one Lawrence, who is an American con man who is far more experienced and clearly much better at this on multiple levels in multiple ways than Edamura Makoto. And eventually we ran into Abby, who is, I think, his partner in crime at the very least. And she seems young and talented and like not twixt, what would the word be? It would be the person who does the stealing and stuff. Fast, quick, has martial arts experience. Cool. Also really cool, which is super awesome. And I did just mention the word twixt, which might have perked some of your ears because I realized what that first episode in some ways reminds me of. And it reminds me of the early parts of the Mistborn series. And I know this is a weird tangent, but I'm going to go down it and then we'll circle back. In that series, we start off with one of the main characters, Vin, being a lower level criminal, working among lower level criminals who believe that they are the highest level of criminal, who they believe they're hot shit, and it is their belief that they are hot shit that gets them into hot water, and eventually Vin finds her way to a mentor criminal, Kelsier, who takes care of her and teaches her the ropes and the ways of doing the actual higher falutin scamming stuff. And I realized thinking, okay, this is kind of like that, and this and that are kind of like other things that I'm familiar with. Ocean series, certain other things. This is kind of an archetypal crimey story where we've got this young individual who believes themselves to be really good at what they're doing, but what they're really doing is like robbing convenience store level crime. It's pretty low level. And they run into a much bigger fish who threatens to consume them. And instead of being consumed, they become a partner and an apprentice. We get an apprentice master sort of relationship there with some animosity present under the surface and stuff. And that's kind of exactly what we're looking at here, at least so far. And I'm curious to see how it plays out from here, because I think there are two like big divergent paths of the way that this story plays out. One of those paths is the positive path, and relatively positive because we're still talking about criminals here. But criminals in this world are our heroes, that we want them to succeed in their crimes because making a heist and pulling the wool over people who are even worse than them is kind of fun. And in that path, the individual, the protagonist, becomes an apprentice and learns a lot of the ropes and maybe like tries to overthrow the master a little bit, but then kind of doesn't and ends up growing and gaining respect for them, and that respect maybe becomes mutual, yada yada. The other path is sort of the Star Wars path, in a way. It's that or maybe like the Italian mafia crime drama path, because that's a little bit different and a little bit more sinister. Where the young person becomes part of this life of serious crime, and the things that they learn are actually pretty bad, and they end up getting deeper and deeper and deeper into a bad situation. And I call it the Star Wars path because that's kind of the path of the Sith apprentice, right? They're sort of a mediocre bad guy, and they're being kind of mediocrely bad, and then a Sith Lord comes over and is like, you're pretty bad, but you got some force powers. I'll teach you to be really bad. And then they go along with it, and off we go, and we have a good master-apprentice relationship, and then I murder you, and I take your place, and the cycle repeats, right? But there's something constant about these stories. There's something about them that's an interesting thread that connects them all together. I think it's partly the mystique and the aura of pulling the wool over other people's eyes and proving your own wit and intelligence by competing with others, especially when there's danger involved. That's compelling. There's something compelling about that. But I also think that there's something to the master apprentice relationship, and to that sort of, it's kind of a fish out of water, or like a big fish, small pond, taken from that small pond into a bigger pond, and then they meet a bigger fish type of story. But it's also like finding someone who is good at what you do in a thing that you do that nobody else does, because you can't talk to other people about it. You can't just like go around and be like, hey, does anybody know how to be a better con man? You can't do that. But to get that sort of a master apprentice relationship, there's something compelling about that relationship as well. So there are lots of layers here that I think are really fun. And I haven't really talked about the actual specific events of episode 1, but we can go through them really quickly. Edamura Makoto is a criminal, and is conning people for chump change, basically, for a couple, little bits of money, conning old ladies and stuff. And he tries to con a con man, and he gets wrecked. He gets his wallet swapped. But it turns out that con is multifaceted, multi-layered, and that his his older friend, who's also a con man, is in on it. All of the cops are in on it. The old lady is in on it. And the whole thing seems to be a scheme by Laurent to pick up a new apprentice, which is crazy cool as a reveal, and is the situation that leads me to think, well, one, we need to be paying attention, because if we are, maybe we notice that they all have the same watches. But two, even if we noticed that they all have the same watches, the chances that I was going to be able to ever put together that this was all a scheme, zero, because I still don't fully understand what the scheme was or what the point of it was. If it was just to get an apprentice that he needs, I don't really know. But it's pretty fucking crazy regardless, and it's pretty fucking cool. So we go from there, and then we are attacking, or we make a little bet that he will become his apprentice if he fails, and he will get his money back and some other things if he succeeds. And the success story has to do with scamming this Eddie guy, who is a very bad dude in Hollywood with a very big mansion. And Laurent has already like entrenched himself in this guy. Like he knows him. They have a relationship. This is like a long con. He's got a setup going. He's got Abby entrenched as one of the like random pool babes who's around. And so he can use her to like pretend that the thing is actually good drugs and whatnot. So there's lots of stuff going on there, lots of schemes and plots. I don't know what the end game is. It seems to be to swindle this guy out of a bunch of money that he's going to pay for a bunch of drugs, but how that's going to play out, I don't know. And he needs Edamura to be the doctor scientist who makes the drugs, because he's the source, right? But I figure if you're a real bad dude and a guy who you sort of trust, but you don't really care about that, comes in and tells you this man right here is the one who can produce a cash cow, I feel like Eddie's going to try and kidnap Edamura, and I feel like that's the ploy here, is like we want that to happen. Laurent wants that for some reason. But I don't fucking know. Really, we're in the dark, and that's the magic of a first episode that does things like this, because it can throw all this shit on the wall and then pull pieces out of it and actually, well, more aptly, like throw a bunch of shit on the wall, so we're looking at a beautiful, big, colorful, like Jackson Pollock piece, and then we can erase the parts that don't matter until it shows a shape that is whatever we're actually doing with this story. Regardless, I've been talking here for a minute, and I know that might turn some people off, but I want to get some of these thoughts out immediately as we, I've had a week to simmer on this show, and then I rewatched the episode, and I've got these thoughts about what's really going on here. And not just what's going on in the show, but what's going on in the writer's room. Like, what are they trying to accomplish here, and what kind of story is being told? And I think those are interesting questions to address. Okay. Let's transition. Let's segue into actually watching the next episode. So, we're going to watch episode 2 of The Great Pretender. I'm going to stick with the sub, and here's why. I went through and, again, I rewatched it today, and I kept switching back and forth between the dub and the sub, and I just can't stand the sub. I can't stand the dub. I can't stand it. I don't like it. So if you love the dub and you're a big dub stan, bye. If you're cool watching it regardless, sweet, let's go. Sorry, I just cannot do it. It doesn't sound right to me. And that's nothing against the dub voice actors. though it is. It's more against the way that it sounds, the way that it feels. It doesn't feel right for the characters. It just doesn't click for me. So sorry. Okay, but we're gonna watch the sub. It should be good. I'm excited. Uh, the colorfulness of this whole show has created some pretty cool images so far, and I'm looking forward to more. It's willing to do some pretty exciting and interesting things. Yeah, it was just a really good, well-paced episode with good music and relatively good writing, and it seems to all flow together, and I like the way that the characters are interacting, and I like the underlying themes and elements of the story. It's good shit. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. So let's watch episode 2. I've got that episode up and ready to go. It's at 0 seconds. There will be 2 versions. Picture-in-picture version available in the description. Timer version up on YouTube if you want to sync up your own copy. Early access on the Patreon. You can check that out also in the description. And beep beep timer to count you down to 0. Let's go. All right, back to our start. We're what you want to be. Mm. No, Colin Fee dance. Okay. Where's Abby going? If you promise not to run away. Oh! Well, you did get let down. Snaps his neck. Story's over. All right. The watch, patterns. I don't know what that was. Don't know who she is yet. I don't know if that's Laurent or if that's Adamura or if it's neither. Cool. Ah, God, that's pretty. Who is this? And where is this? Is this his mother? Yeah. Yeah, but you didn't. So now we're back to an emotional core. Even if it gets tough, remember you can't quit. Thanks, Mom. Ugh. I mean, Gambare, keep going is a good message, but I don't know about that. Aww. Was that from a gacha? Hey. Alright. Cool. Oh, we are still selling a bunch of Jubilanti. Ugh. Oh. So we're back in time a bit, huh? It has not. Doubt it. Are they already working together? People are more likely to jump if there's a... Well, bruh. Ah. Oh. Ah. they're already working together. Nice. Because it's the first follower effect. Okay. Gotta write that down. Oh, okay, so they are actually the company. But I think they just make really bitter tea. Aww. With my background? Does he have a record? Okay, it has to do with his old man. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There we go. Again, I see. He just runs this game over and over and over. Oh, he tries to get the kid off. Wow, that's fucking dope. But it's true. No. Everything bearing down on you. Crushed. Ugh. Right. Fuck. Wow. So there's the other side of the story, right? Where you get conned as well. Well, some mistakes do. That's a beautiful idea, Mom. Hmm. Hmm. Yes, but I'm innocent. Okay. You're not gonna hire me regardless, man. Right. Can't get a job fucking anywhere. You're a felon. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do? And this is why recidivism is a problem. Oh. And that switches it. Fuck it. Might as well. Oh, man. I didn't expect this. I thought we were gonna go with the story from the point where we were. Oh, but we need instead to set this up. Oh, hello. Is he gonna try to kill him? Yeah. That would be my worry as well. Right, he's fully given it up. Sick. That's fucking rough, buddy. Oh, there we go. Okay, it was all a dream. But all real. Abby kind of a meanie. Wow, that's pretty. Wow, that's pretty. Oh, fuck you. Wow. Some lobster. Mm-hmm. Where does it all go, Abby? Where does it all go? That was candy, my mans. Got him again. Uh-huh. Yeah. It's just candy. Uh-huh. Easy peasy. Welcome to the scam. Oh. Well, yeah. But he was just freaking out. Mm-hmm. Wants him badly. Hmm. They do not, Abby. You got a lot of scouts. Mm-hmm. Mama. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Sure. Sure. Very charming. Sure, sure. Oh, yeah. Kudo, too. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, of course. Okay, so this is what I was expecting, is that we laid all this out. Yes. That was just a taxi. Yikes. So this willingness to scam you as well. Yeah, he sees straight through you. Well, he knows Kudo. Mm. Mm-mm. Please no. That's so good. Oh, I hate it. Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, I saw a Steven Seagal film. It's just trash. Nice, nice. I mean, it was called Raz. Oh, there's Steven himself. Where's the stash? Where's the goatee? Tie hat, huh? Uh-huh. I think you think that of everyone, Abby. I think you hate everyone. Right, right, right. That looked great. Was that CG? I'm not sure. That makes sense. Oh. Oh, yep. There's the shit. So here's why it's justified for us to take from him, because he's a bad guy. Classic. Classic. Right, too many connections. That's a setup of a face. Yeah, of that reporter. Good. Cool. Oh, red sky. Very good. Oh, that piano looks awesome. That piano looks fucking awesome. Big ball of ice. Uh-huh. Friend of yours, eh? Okay. Oh, it's quite fun. But he believes himself. Right, it's all about building up arrogance in the person. Right. Right. Confidence. There's the attitude. We're all in this temporarily. Might as well. Damn. You're in it now, bud. You are in it now. Okay, there are boundaries. I'm sorry, what? Okay, thanks. Not happening. Hmm. I wonder when we're going to cut that tie, if at all. Because I think it's useful for Laurent to have him have that motivation. You're not getting out. Yeah, not a chance. Zero shot. Yeah, no. That is quite what they're doing. And you are, there you go. There you go. I don't think that's true. What is that? Cool. Hmm. Hmm. I love that each of them has a solidly different twisted perspective on the world. Yeah, I have my own perspective. You are mean, Abby. Yeah, right. Are mm, I love the door bang. Yeah. Interesting. Really interesting. Oh man, you should not be walking around alone in LA at night. You should not be doing this. Ah. Probably. Nah, he'll be back. Each of them with their own twisted perspective. Well, never mind. Yeah, but what happened to him exactly? Okay, going back. Fuck. Wait, what? Oh, okay. He's trying to win still. What? What? Huh? Mochiro. Just like, yeah, wait, what? What did you do, Edamame? Huh? Don't say that so loud, dude. Oh, okay. It's not. Oh, no. The Great Uniter. Uh, huh. Right. It was just trying to win. Well, there's our back and forth and testing of boundaries, right? Hmm. I don't get why it's cats. I don't get it. Cat, you don't eat pancakes. Stop it. Cat, you don't want that. It's a very fun ED. I just don't get it. I like this shot quite a bit. I guess that kind of works for his mom's story. Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that. Oh boy. Oh, and it's because it's the cat that that's why, or part of it. Okay. This was a really good episode. I know we've only seen 2 episodes now so far. I don't know how to like where's the average, but so far the average is high. The average is good. Hmm. Also the flow of things is really good. Back to in media res, drop on the head, the backstory. The backstory is excellent. Um in multiple ways excellent. And we're gonna I think a large portion of our discussion is actually gonna be about this small portion of the episode, because this is like 6 minutes of the episode. Um just here. And the rest of the episode is explanations, thoughts, things about being a con and actually conning. But it all centers around the decision making of Adamura in a really good way. I think this is too much character design to not be a character that we're going to see in the future. I also think that there's a moment we see something in the OP that I think might be a recording device. Oh, no, it's the box of candy. I was wondering what that thing was, but we get this like explosion of stuff in a moment, this and then this, and I thought that this might be something like that, or like out of the corner of my eye, I thought it was like a camera maybe, or like an old-timey film camera or something, but no, it's a box of candy. Cool. So it's not that. So maybe she doesn't matter, but I just felt like there was a character design there. It doesn't really matter. Ooh, his mom and her love of little cat pins and things like that. And her constant positivity in his life, right? Constantly like telling him to go get it and keep at it and be sturdy and be strong and I believe in you. Good job. It's very bitter though. The tea is very bitter. But he's got this history, right? So he doesn't, his father isn't in his life. His father is a criminal of some kind. We don't know what level or kind of criminal, but regardless, there's a deep stigma around it. And all he has is his mom, and his mom is dying. But she's all that he has. And she pushes him to do well for himself and all those things. And in the interest of doing that, he joins a company that he thinks is legitimate. And they're not. So through essentially no fault of his own, he is immediately a criminal, he is convicted, and he is a felon for the rest of his life. And now he's in a situation where he can't get work, he can't support himself, and at the almost exact same time, his mother dies. So he goes from, I'm going to get it, I'm going to live my life, to there's no point to any of this. There's no point to living. It's all worthless. It's all stupid. There's nothing that makes life worthwhile. And if there's nothing that makes my life worthwhile, then there's nothing that makes anyone else's life worthwhile. And so it doesn't matter if I take things from them, right? This is the spiral out. This is the way that we justify that criminal behavior. I thought it was going to be, I have something in my life that I must protect, my mother. I thought it was going to be like trying to pay for her medical bills. I have something that I must protect, and therefore I will do anything in order to accomplish that. And so I will go I will use any means to because the ends are justified, right? But that's not it. That's not it at all. Not for him. He's lost all sense of purpose, value, import, or like sanctity of things or of life. If life is meaningless and unfair, and there is no justice to be found anywhere, then there is no reason for me to abide by the precepts of justice. It doesn't exist. It's all bullshit. So I might as well go and steal and do drugs and kill and whatever. But he's got some, he's all confused. He's all muddled up in his head, right? He's got the like, I won't do drugs. That's the first thing that I swore not to do. I won't do drugs, right? So he's got these like things that are moral or right to him and things that don't matter. And that's really interesting because he's a very young, very confused character. And I can identify with that. I can resonate with that. There's something about that clicks because he's trying to figure out his perspective on the world. He's trying to figure out his way of being, who he should be. And the things that have given him like good feedback over the last couple of years have been being good at stealing from other people, being good at being a con has been what's best for him. Because going the right way, trying to get jobs, trying to be honest about those jobs and trying to tell them, trying to go and give them his resume and all that shit hasn't worked. He hasn't gotten shit for any of that. I mean, he was being thrown out of warehouse work, right? Nobody will hire him. Nobody. Ooh. But nobody would hire him anyway because his father was a felon or a killer or a criminal of some kind. I don't know how bad what his father did was, but a part of it seems like whatever his father did was well known. Like maybe he was a boss of some kind, or maybe he was a political criminal. Don't know. Just don't know. We set up this image, this symbol of like, it's a pretty perfect symbol. The little kitten, right? The little cat smiling and happy. It's bright and it's round and it's comfortable and it's immediately associated with his mom. It's comfy. It's everything that's good in the world to him. And we watch it get scuffed up as the episode goes on, but he's still holding on to it, right? It's not something that he's throwing away. It's not something that he's able to get rid of because it's still a core part of who he is, you know? He doesn't want to let go of it. He's disillusioned. He's not like fully shattered. He's broken, but he doesn't want to let go of those pieces because they mean something to him. And he knows that they mean something in general. That's really interesting and really rough. Okay. I love this scene. There are a whole bunch of little cons going on here and little like psychological tricks, you know, using sayings and using idioms to like prove things to people. The better the medicine, the better it is for you. And then straight lying about stuff. Decrease cancer cells. Nope. I'm honored to be the first to tell you about it. Blah blah blah. And then of course there's this part, which is a twofold con and a really interesting one. One is that people are more likely to jump when there's some kind of discount, when they think they're getting a deal, regardless of whether they're getting a deal. It's why there are stores that constantly have signs in the windows that say, big sale, because it's psychologically, you think I'm getting a deal. There's a time limit to this, or there's some kind of, I'm getting something better than I would be getting otherwise. This is worth it. It makes things seem more worth it, right? It's why Steam sales are a constant thing, even though they're selling digital technology that's like, it doesn't have intrinsic like sale value. There's no like overhead, really. It's not a great example because Steam sales are very different, but people are more likely to buy things during sales. Sure. But then there's the second thing that happens here, which is, I'll take it. And then he walks up and he starts taking it. And this is the first follower effect. There's a really good, it's a little YouTube video. Let me find the exact title. I think it's called just The First Follower. That might be what it's called. But it's a little like not super scientific study. Maybe it was, I know that there is a TED Talk. It's called How to Start a Movement. Yeah, How to Start a Movement. You can find it on the TED channel. And there's it uses some footage of like some event, and there are a bunch of people standing around or like chilling on a hillside, and one guy starts fucking jamming out, like dancing like a monster, going crazy, fully just going crazy, and everybody sort of looks at this guy. That's the lone nut. No chance. What the fuck is this guy doing? But then somebody joins him. And what you can see in the video is that as soon as someone else joins, as soon as someone says yes, as soon as someone buys in, as soon as someone starts dancing with him, now there's a movement going on. Now there are two, and maybe it's not crazy, and maybe it's fun over there, and maybe it's a good idea, and maybe I should go do that too. And then more people start rolling in, and then it all accelerates because the more people are doing it, the more people are like, oh no, I'm going to get left out. Oh no, I want to be a part of this. There's something fun going on here. There's something interesting going on here. And it works for sales too, because it's all psychological. It doesn't matter what the thing is. All these people are standing around at the tea salesman, Jubilanti, right? And they're all going, I'm not going to buy this stuff. That's silly. Nobody buys this stuff. That's crazy. But then somebody buys it and they're like, well, somebody else decided this was worthwhile. Maybe this is worthwhile. And somebody else buys it and, oh, okay, wait. And then it accelerates to the point where it's like, well, he's only got so many and there's only this limited time deal for 2 boxes for 4,000 yen. Maybe I should go and deal with this right now. Like, I take my money. Let's go. So there are all these different layers of psychology going on where there's the discount effect, there's the first follower effect, and then there's the crowd follower effect. Up until the point where you're almost using the same effect that's used on like you'll see on like novelists, where it's like 20 million copies sold, best-selling author, blah, blah, blah. Oh, there must be something worthwhile here. That's a very human thing to do, is you see one person looking at something and you look that direction to see what they're looking at. You're like, well, there must be something interesting over there, because otherwise why would this person be looking over there? And all these little psychological tricks are folded into this little piece of the narrative, this little tiny one scene. And that means that the person writing the narrative understands all those tricks and understands how a criminal might use those tricks to scam people. And that demonstrates a pretty interesting level of understanding of psychology, and maybe of understanding of sales, and maybe of understanding of con men. And that's pretty fascinating. I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a very neat scene, because it all folds together in a really cool way. And we're all watching it happen, and it rings true even if you don't know any of the things that I just told you about. You know them, right? You know that people act that way, even if you don't know why people act that way, or even if you've never seen, How to Start a Movement, that little TED Talk, or whatever. You know that sales work because people feel like they're getting a sale, but you also know that that's sort of a scam sometimes, right? Like it doesn't mean you're necessarily getting a good deal. Lots of companies mark things up and then mark them down so that things are always on sale. It's like, okay, interesting. And then there are companies that take the knowledge of that knowledge and use it as their sales technique, right? Like Walmart, everyday low prices, right? We don't put things on sale because the prices are already low. So you're coming to Walmart to get the everyday low prices, which we're not marking down because that's how we do things. But then we also put things on sale sometimes, so you buy those more impulsively. That's really interesting, right? I think that's really interesting. You may think that's dumb and stupid, but it is a part of the way that we interact with the world as human entities. Like, we're not necessarily rational. We're rational from a certain perspective. And that is a part of what we'll talk about a little bit later, which is Lawrence's viewpoint on people and the way that they act. Because what he says is that people act in a way that I don't remember the exact wording, but it's like people act in a way that most aligns with their worldview and facilitates what they want, right? That's how they act, and something like that. And we'll get to it in a moment, because I think it's very interesting, because we set up a different, very twisted worldview for each of our three core characters: for Laurent, for Edamura, and for Abby. Each of them has their different, twisted way of looking at the world, stemming from their own experiences, and they've built up this conceptual framework, this perspective through which everything fits, right? You have a perspective, and everything fits your perspective because you only really see what fits your perspective. And that's why, in a lot of cases, people see things that align with their viewpoint. A very religious person sees the power of God in everything. A very nihilistic person sees injustice and the failures of humanity, and failures of the system and worthlessness in everything. A very hostile person very often will see hostility in everything. We'll see anger and conflict in everything. And that's an element of what Abby seems to be. And that's interesting. Very interesting. And what's more interesting from this perspective is that the author is writing all those things into these characters in a way that's coherent and makes sense. And I think that is fascinating. Okay. So we sell a bunch of boxes and we're all happy. Very, very grateful to you. You're not responsible for what your old man did, but you ought to toughen up a little bit. Oh, you want to toughen up? How about getting fucking arrested? And the world starts to collapse in on him. We go from, this is simple directing stuff, but we go from straight frames, right? Up and down, vertical, to angles. And of course, there are the facial features that demonstrate everything to us, and we get darker and darker and fuzzier and fuzzier. And what's going on here is that his world is falling apart, right? We talked about it as a conceptual framework of the way that the world works. It's all evaporating. He's disappearing because his way of being just stopped working. I'm doing well and I'm a part of a business and the business is good and I'm doing good and I'm here to support myself and support my mom to some extent and all of these things are good. And also he genuinely believes in the product to some extent. He might not necessarily believe in everything that's said about it, but he believes that they're selling something worth selling. And so he's a great salesman for the product because he believes in it, right? He's not lying. He doesn't think he's lying. And all of that just gone. So who is he without all of those things? Well, he's the kid being berated by some cop. And the cop won't believe him. I love the visuals of these scenes. Everything being sucked down into the color of this lamp is really solid. It's a classic scene, but the way that it feels very like graphic novel, chiaroscuro. And I learned very recently that it's not chiaroscuro, it's chiaroscuro. Chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro.
Fuck. But it's very graphic novel-y. It's very dark and light, right? It's very much playing with light and form and shape and feel. And that's great. And it does a really good job of it. And it looks excellent. It's a cool scene. It's immediately striking. And the light is behind him and there's only darkness ahead, right? Like the light is shining from in front of him, but light is only behind him. And he is framed in it. And he is trapped with these cameras above. And everything is isolating him down into this corner of this room. Usually when we get crushing shots where visual elements of the shot are smushing down on our character, we push them into the corner. It's nice to have one where he's pushed into the middle. Even his own shadow feels like it's crushing him, feels like it's a weight on his shoulders. It's really quite powerful. Let me find the page on crushing shots. Oh, it's also a strong downward angle, which helps, right? Actually, this is exactly the example. It's a very different frame, but you can see this is the like outline of it, right? And this is the frame itself. And this is a character here being questioned by a bunch of cops, and he's crushed into the center, spotlighted by light, and there is darkness encroaching from all different directions. It's pretty great. Yeah, and it also Marcus Mateo Mestre, who's the author of this book, great book by the way, says very specifically, by including the shadow of the wall on the wall above the detainee's head in the shot, we quote unquote close the circle around him. He has no way out. Shadow, circle, framed, bars of the room collapsing on him, crushed, cornered, centered, no way out. Excellent. Really excellent. Like graphic novel, one frame tells you everything that you need to know. Excellent. Truly, truly, truly magical. There are some things in this world that no one truly understands, says his mother. And she's right. And no one can really know the truth. And she's right. We see it getting scuffed up, right? But the scuffs on it, it's no longer shiny and perfect and new. They mean something. They mean that she's held on to this thing for the entire, we don't know how long it's been since he gave it to her, maybe a year, but she's held on to it and she's worried it and like held it and cared about it for that whole time. They give it a feeling of like not being scuffed, but being well worn, right? There's a huge difference there. All you can do is believe in yourself. But I'll always believe in you too. Beautiful. Really, truly beautiful. And then we're going to take it away, right? That's why we build that up, is we're going to take it away. I'll always believe in you too. Yeah, but what if you're not there? And what if nobody else in the entire world believes in me? Shit. And there are all these contradictions. The only way to move forward in life is to acknowledge the truth. Well, he is, but he is. But of course, you trust the system over the individual. You have to. this makes sense from the employer's perspective. It's not a bad idea. It makes sense. That doesn't mean that it's very fun for the person being pushed away. Our company values honesty. And of course, they're throwing this shit in his face, and he's like, well, I'm being honest. So, what am I gonna do? There is no justice in this world. Makes sense to come to that conclusion, right? If the world treats you constantly with injustice, then that's gonna be a big part of your perspective. And then the best thing that's in his life at all is gone in an instant. His mother, the source of support, the source of those positive ideas, the source of a lot of his motivation, I think, gone. And he's lost it. Literally, he has lost it. Whatever it was, it being that thing that she was talking about that people don't understand. It's gone. So here we have a different kind of crushing shot, right? This one's more somber. So he holds the little cat and he remembers the light and the beauty, and he holds it tight. And he goes out in the rain. So immediately I thought as well that this was going to be a violent encounter. Because that tracks a little bit. To go, it's your fault that all of this happened to me. I'm going to fucking kill you. That's one way that some people might react to this. But that's not the way that he reacts to this. He reacts a very believable, very like sensible other way. Not that it's sensible for him, but that it makes sense for someone to think this way. I love this shot. How we're almost still behind bars here, right? The sense of light and darkness, the brickwork and the way that it all feels, and just the general color aesthetic of the whole show, and the flickering lights, right? Like we're in a space in between, is what this feels like to me. It feels like a space in between choices. The lights flickering between light and darkness. Bars over part of the frame, but not all of it. A very complicated foreground. And a crossroads. Please don't get violent. Everyone thinks I'm a con man now. And his voice actor does a great job here. Does a great job there. And then he's awake. So I might as well become one. Nihilism. There's no point in pretending. I might as well do what they expect from me. The world keeps shitting on me, I might as well shit back. That's solid. That's very solid. Writing-wise. God damn, that frame is pretty. It's just color fucked. There's so much variation from these bright yellows and these deep, like reds and pinks and warm colors of this sunset to the very opposite, the coolest blues, all in one frame, all creating like depth and form and feel. It's great for Hollywood. It's really great because it's a world of contrast. It's a world of beauty and also like contrast of different things mashed together, where there are these glorious Beverly Hills mansions fed by drugs and sex trafficking, right? Like that's the idea that's present here, is that it's a world of conflicting ideals all coming together, where it's a world that's all about like appearances and surface level and beauty and gems and things like that, but it's also about gang violence and dirty streets and prostitution and drugs. Like those are all things that are present here. Like I grew up and went to school in the porn capital of the world, the San Fernando Valley. And I went to school alongside people who were like children of actors, very, very wealthy people, and also not that wealthy people. And I was not a wealthy person. And there's this very weird sense of contrast, of difference, of separation, but it's all part of one landscape. And that's what this reads as to me. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just my perspective, but it does click there. It does read that way. It does feel right to talk about it in that way. I don't know if that's the intent or if the intent is just to create pretty landscapes. I don't know. But it works from that perspective, and that's valuable to me. And it's valuable for me to talk about it, I think. Okay, I love this interaction. Now, I don't love it at this point. It's very striking. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Obviously, he's setting something up. But the way that it plays out absolutely boggles my mind. How he uses it to just be like, sorry if it's too expensive. And of course, the guy agrees, so that the waitress is like, oh, I guess he did agree to pay for their check. Fantastic. Amazing. Okay, so we get deeper into the conversation. I love how Abby is just housing lobster tails. Where does it go, Abby? I don't know. I guess she's real active and she burns a lot of kcals. Good for her. I personally don't like lobster very much. I don't like most shellfish. I'm okay with shrimp, but most shellfish doesn't sit well with me. So rip me. Never gonna be fancy boy, but that's okay. I can always order steak. Just give me the turf of the surf and turf, and I'm happy. Just going hard on lobster tails. It's great. You forced that drug down my throat. I swore I wouldn't do drugs. My life's gone tits up because of you. No, it's been tits up for a while, my boy, my man. You toss him another one. What flavor did you get? And we do the whole reveal, and it's good. This is all very compelling and very fun and very good. Okay. I love this reveal as well, that she's super in on it. Of course, he was in on it in a second because he'll go do anything for money. He's that guy, right? He's archetypal. All of these characters fit their character. They fit so well. They fit so well. And it just keeps getting better. I'm really excited for this show now because of all the little elements that are present here. I'm really excited for it. Yeah. Could we wrap you up in the actual thing? I want to hear the first part. Yeah. Besides, I just couldn't resist having you. A hardened con man who's still an innocent, pure-hearted boy underneath it all. Because Edomura himself is a creature of contrast, right? He hasn't integrated. And that's part of why he's our protagonist, why he's our main character in this story, I think. Because he's gone full bore from good boy to all bad, and he hasn't found a place in between where he's comfortable, where he can use his monstrousness, where he can use his ability to scam people. And he has that ability. He's good, right? He's got the talent. He hasn't figured out a way where he can use that and be okay with it without just dismissing the idea that he'll ever be okay with it. We'll see how that evolves over the course of his journey. I'm really excited by it. And Lauren reveals that he knows all of it. And then we are interrupted in this very serious moment. This moment where we make this eye contact and Lauren calls us out. It's very predatory. It's a little scary. And I think that's the point. I think that's the purpose of it, right? Lauren is very soft-spoken, very straightforward, but he has proven to us that he can fuck your shit up without you even realizing he's doing it. And that's very scary. Abby's scary in her own way too, but she's more physically scary, right? She's able to beat the shit out of you, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it, period. You just can't fight her. That's the setup here, right? In terms of where Edomura sees himself in this relationship, he's still playing around. He's still figuring out this power dynamic. And Lauren is very scary. Abby is also scary, but in a different way. More approachable, maybe. But she'll also take your fucking head off. That's really interesting. That's clever. Okay, real mafia. I love this scene. I love it so much. My friend over there is picking up our check. Sorry if it turns out to be too expensive. Cheers. No worries, man. Sure. And you see that he's having, I mean, he's having a nice meal at a nice restaurant, right? But he's having like a much more like smaller, like less over the top meal with his friends. Ah, no worries, bro. And Lauren picks up on it. Okay. And then we get into the darkness. And I have to be careful because there's one scene with exposed breasts here. It's YouTube. It's how we do things. I have to be careful, but that's fine. I'll edit around it if I accidentally find it. And this is where we really shine a light on that contrast that we were talking about. Kasano makes shit, up for a Razzie, but he did make the Die Hot movies, and they're not bad. And his real occupation is the drug trafficking. I do want to see these blocks of money. I guess they're not CG. They don't look like they are. I think they look good. Just the coming toward the camera, I think they look good. It's a striking scene. Unified 3 gangs. Salazar used to be one of the bosses, and now he's been bought off. This is where we get that scene. And it's the darkness that seeps under the surface, right? It's the sewage that's beneath the city. It's the evil that creeps. I like it. I like it a lot. But it's also more important than that, because there's a reason that Lauren is telling him about it, right? There's a specific reason, which is that Kasano is a bad dude. So it's justified for us to steal from him. You don't need to have any moral qualms about this, because he's a bad dude and he does bad things. So we can do bad things to him and it's okay. That's an interesting perspective, isn't it? Now, it's very Robin Hood, and we talk about that a little bit later. Edamura brings that up himself. It's very Robin Hood, and we see Robin Hood as a hero. I have to imagine that as a consummate liar and cheater, you kind of need to see yourself as a hero in order to justify it. And I think a lot of serious criminals do see themselves as heroes, taking from people who have too much, right? I think it's a common way of justifying. And I think what Laurent is doing, it's kind of like the scam with the tea earlier, is you don't just want one avenue of convincing somebody of something. You want them to be confident. And to do that, you convince them in multiple aspects, right? This will make you rich. You'll get better at being a con man. The guy we're scamming is bad, so it's worth doing anyway, etc., etc. More different reasons. Because the more that you have, the less arguments you can formulate against it. And that's pretty nice. That's pretty good. But they end up as junkies or sex slaves, or both. And apparently he is the Italian stallion beneath. Pretty classic stuff. Oh, Seririer Courthouse. Cool. So they pinch him for tax evasion, but he always gets away from it. And we see the face. She's really striking. This is a character, I think. This is a reporter who wants to take him down, right? This look in her face is like righteous fury. It's like, I'm gonna get you. Maybe she will. Maybe she'll be a part of our game. I'm intrigued. So he's like Al Capone. I love this shot and this shot. But I love it because of the color contrast, right? We pan up from these dark, dreary, cool colored streets. And I mean cool in terms of blues, right? Blues, grays, cool colored. We pan up from them. As soon as we clear these guys, gunshot goes off, right? We can listen to it. And then red creeps in, like blood dripping from the wall, right? From above. And it's all red up above. And that cuts us into their meeting. I love the way the piano looks. It's gorgeous. I love the way that we create space in this frame. It's really pretty. You know, lines all working together to draw us in toward Laurent over here and Eddie over here. Of course, he's also moving and our camera's following him, right? Like the world follows Eddie, because it does. You know, the pianist looks like he's looking in that direction. Everything is pointed in that direction. It's clever. It's clever. It's good. So we meet up. We have ourselves a little chat. We don't really go through the chat. We just sort of cut from, we're just called it Sakura Magic, and we know that Lauren has already set these seeds, and so we can infer what happens during this conversation. We don't really need to show it, and so we clink glasses, and we're good. Boom, done, great. Isn't this fun? Not even a little. And here it is. Okay, so we start talking about beliefs about the world. Listen closely. Human beings don't always believe the truth in front of their faces. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I'll talk about it in a moment. What do they believe? They believe whatever interpretation of the truth is most convenient to them. You know, actually, I do think it's correct. Because what I was going to say is human beings don't always believe the truth that's in their faces. And I was going to say they do, they just see only the part of the truth that makes sense to them, that's convenient to them. Or to us. I'm a human. I only see the truth that's convenient to me. That's part of why. This is a hard idea. If you only have one perspective, then you are, well, we call it being narrow-minded. It's true. And I think the idea of narrow-minded has to do with vision, right? It has to do with seeing only what you want to see. It's not necessarily what you want to see. You might say, I want to understand more. But maybe you don't. Maybe the systems of your being that keep you feeling safe and comfortable don't want you to see more than what you see. And so you believe whatever interpretation of that truth is most convenient to you. I think it's really important to try to understand and experience other people's perspectives. Because how else are you going to broaden your vision? You can't really do it consciously, because your consciousness is bound by that interpretation, by that conceptual framework, by the way that you actually conceptualize all the things in the world. Because we see the world through sequences of filters. People are people. This guy I can trust. That's a cat. This table is useful for me to sit at. This chair is a thing that I sit on. You don't see the chair as something, I mean, you might, but you don't see the chair as something that you could like swing through the air. It's hard to bring this into words, right? But you see everything in the perspective of, can I use this as a tool? Is this thing an obstacle? What is this thing for? And I think that beginning to view other people's perspectives not as obstacles, but as tools that you can try to understand their, like, the way that they are seeing the world, is a very, very powerful thing, and it opens your perspective. I think that's really interesting. And I think that media is a great way, because it shows us a whole world, and everything that is present in that world is planned and chosen. Movies or anime are the main things that I think work on this sense, because everything is so carefully put together, and everything costs like money and time to produce. It costs money and time to draw Laurent with the glass, right? It costs money and time to make every single frame of animation. And so everything has to matter. And so the perspective that we demonstrate has to be thought through. At least we would hope, right? The truth is that there's a lot of trash out there, and trash generally to me means there's nothing interesting going on, and nobody really cares, and we're just trying to sell a thing. But if we are putting our effort into it, and we are trying to create a perspective and create a world and create a thing to build something, then we as observers, we as watchers can watch it and learn from it. And we can see differently through the eyes of the hand of the artist who drew it. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. I think it makes sense. It makes sense to me. It's what I've been doing for the last couple of years, on and off, because I don't always remember that idea. It's not always there. It's hard to keep that locked in your brain, like, this is the reason that I'm doing this. This is what matters, is to try to see things that I don't know yet. Because it's much easier to watch things and see what you already know. And I do that a lot. And I have to fight against it. And it's hard. It's fucking hard to try to constantly be learning. because learning takes effort and energy, and it's much easier to just, oh, you know? But that's the way of things. That's how it is. They believe whatever interpretation of the truth is most convenient to them. That's a powerful idea. And again, I think it speaks to the maturity and like understanding of people that the author of this, or authors, because I'm not sure that there's a specific author. This may be committee written. This may be like group written. And I think that makes more sense. And I think that might be more valuable in some certain circumstances, to have multiple people going, well, no, this is what this character would say here. And they're more right because there are multiple perspectives present in creating the thing, right? And that's part of why anime sometimes is really cool, is because there are multiple people working on figuring out what would be right in each circumstance. And not only what would they say, but what would they do, and how would they look, and how would they function, and what would they be doing. And then there are the people who actually draw it out, and they have to make it right too. And that meaning, that word right is like it resonates with the person who's writing it. And that's kind of, there are layers and layers and layers of input. And that means that each thing is filtered and filtered and filtered down to be as concise and as like good and as right as it can be. And that's powerful. It's powerful and it's dense. It's like candy instead of like a not super sweet fruit, you know? It's density. I sell them the illusion of their wildest dreams come true. That's our line of work. I'm aware that it's an illusion. I'm aware that I'm selling it. But people want to believe in their wildest dreams coming true. Except when it's too good to be true, and then they get turned off from it. Because then they sense a trap, right? So his job is to set a honeypot, set a trap that's just enticing enough to entice, but not so enticing that it feels fake. Brilliant. And then there's the perspective on the danger. We are so going to get killed, and he's very flippant about it immediately. There's something about the way that he responds here that I think is really important. The sort of shrug and the like, yeah, that's how it goes. Very flippant about his own, like, their own mortality, right? It shows a perspective on the value of life from Laurent that I think is interesting. Okay, take it easy for the rest of the night. And then he says, keep him warm, Abby. Oh yeah, I paid for our dinner date. Even if I'm a scumbag, I only con scoundrels who deserve it. So he's got this Robin Hood perspective, right? And maybe it's just a justification, or maybe it's legit. I don't know. But it's part of the way that Laurent sees the world. Laurent sees himself as a good guy. A liar and a cheater and a scumbag, but a good guy at core. Is he? We don't know enough to know yet. He's clearly been in this biz for a while. He's clearly scammed a lot of people out of a lot of money. He's got the money to pay for that big feast, and to pay for the car, or to steal it, and to pay for the plane trip to Japan and back, and to pay all those people off who were working as a part of it, and to buy the clothes and the watches and all the things that allow him to be the con man. So he's relatively successful, at least. But is he a good guy? Depends how you define good. And also, we don't know yet. That's interesting. Okay, see you tomorrow. Abby, keep him warm for me tonight. Which I think, I mean, she flips him off because he's making a sex joke, and it's like, fuck you, man. Fuck off. But he's also saying, keep him here. Which is great. So we hit another crossroads. We've got the goodness that he holds tight to his heart, but he doesn't really believe in, but he wants to. And it's that naivete that is so easily crushed, right? That it's why he falls apart so much, is that he wants so desperately to believe in the simple world where everyone is right, and if you just work hard, you'll get ahead. That's the world that his mother promised to him. And it didn't work. And so his whole framework around that, which is if I work hard, what I expect is that people will treat me well and I'll have a good life. But that's not necessarily true. The world is full of injustice, and this is true, but it destroys him because he doesn't have the defenses built up to deal with it. And that's really sad. But he's still holding on to it. And I think that's really interesting. There's another character here who's holding on to something as well, an object, an artifact of their past, and that's Abby. And she's got this coin thing, I think, and we'll see it in a sec, but I don't know what it is. But I think this is a really important moment as he sits here and looks at that. It's very similar and very different from the Shinji looking at the ceiling, an unfamiliar ceiling, which is episode like 4 or something of Evangelion, where Shinji is alone in a new place, sleeping in a bed that's not his, looking at a ceiling that's not his, right? Very similar in terms of situation, very different in terms of what's going on, because instead of looking up at his own hand against the ceiling, which is what Shinji does in this scene, Edamura is looking at his past. He's looking at this ideal that he's holding with him. And that's really what that cat is. It's an ideal that he's carrying around with him of goodness in the world. And he sighs and he puts it away. And after looking at it, after like communing with the spirit of his mother in a weird way, he decides to get up and go. And that's not going to fucking happen. Abby's not going to let that happen at all. You think you can fucking running around like you're Robin Hood and his merry band. Right. So barbs, jabs, jabs. Cool. There's no such thing as justice in this world. His line, not hers, right? I learned that the hardest way there is. Big doubt. Big doubt. You know why I say big doubt? Because of Abby. There's something about Abby that reads as archetypal to me. I bet she has been hard abused. And I bet Laurent pulled her out of it. Because she seems like the kind of character who does not have loyalty to anyone no matter what except herself. And she has loyalty toward Laurent. There's only one reason for that I can think of, is that she was abused badly and he pulled her out of it. So I think we're going to have an episode at some point in the future where Edamura finds out what Abby's story is and realizes he has not had it bad. Because there are people in this world who've had it way worse, and sometimes they come out of it better than someone who's just naive and crushed for their naivete. Because that's what happens to Edamura here. He's naive, and he is crushed for his naivete. He believes wholeheartedly in that business that he joins, and he gets destroyed by it. And that just fully shatters him. Except for the thing that he's holding on to. This like remnant of that ideal of a good world that he wishes for, but believes that he can never be achieved. What does Abby hold on to? I don't know. We don't know yet, but there's something there. And what broke her? I don't know, but there's something there. And there are also these elements. Looks like living in a peaceful country like Japan makes you soft, which has this like echo to it of if you had grown up on the fucking streets like me, being a girl on the streets, which is what I expect to be her story, where you've got constant threat of physical and sexual violence from everyone. Shit. Soft indeed. And he hits back with the more peaceful it is, the sharper you've got to be to survive, and I think that's stupid. I think she thinks that it's stupid. So he pulls that out, and we see what's on it. Oh, it's a medal. Let me make the subs go away. Ballet competition. Okay. It looks like baller competition. What up? But it's ballet competition, and it's a twisted, bent, broken medal with a ballet on it. So I think that's the broken childhood, right? That's what that strikes me as. Talented young girl, something goes very wrong. there are lots of things that I could theorize. I don't know why, but immediately I think sexual violence. And it's not just because she's female. Like, something about the way that Abby acts makes me think that she fits a character that like is constantly on edge around everyone, especially men. And that makes me think that she's been assaulted. And that's really sad. That's hard. But we'll find out when we find out. And I'm going to fully trust in the story to reveal that to us in its reasonable time. Keep your hands out of my pockets. What does Lawrence see in an amateur like you? Yeah, everything that man does is guided by his own whims, or is that like that kind of barb? It's like a way of seeing men. Your partners, no. And then we get a bit of her perspective. We're not partners. She cuts him off, right? Like, no, you have to understand the real way the world works from my conceptual framework, from my perspective. We're not partners. We're all lone wolves. Everyone is out for themselves, and there's no such, like, this isn't just saying we're not partners. It's saying there's no such thing as a partnership. There's just a temporary alliance. That's someone who can't trust. We're all lone wolves. Screw up and you'll be abandoned. So, Abby is someone who screwed up and was abandoned, probably. Or maybe she didn't screw up and was abandoned anyway. That's worse. And it seems likely. Now beat it, you dead weight fuck. Get the fuck out of here if you don't want to be here. And of course, yeah, she calls him a virgin. And he immediately smacks back with, I'm not a virgin, which is kind of confirms it, I think, right? Like, okay. Methinks the boyo doth protesteth too much, but it doesn't matter. That's okay. Kasano's boys will be watching the airport. I love this. I keep going back to it because I love the way this door looks when it slams. Flam. Boom. Bam. Love it. Looks great. This feels very dangerous. Walking on an underpass underneath the 405. This is a very dangerous area. I don't know what this intersection is. I assume it's a real one. It feels real. I may have been there. I don't know. It's too normal, but it feels very dangerous. Very spooky. So we wait, and Lawrence is confident. This is also an element of their relationship that I think is weird. We don't get any implication of any kind of sexual relationship between Laurent and Abby, and yet Abby seems pretty comfortable being around him basically unclothed, right? There's something to that, I think. There's some level of trust that she's gained from him, or that he's gained from her. Like, she trusts that he won't do anything. And that's interesting to me. Yeah, that's interesting to me. There are also, I didn't mention it before, but we've seen this this or a different pot of lilies throughout all these different episodes. And usually I'll see white lilies and I'll be like, Yuri lilies, there's gonna be the lesbian stuff. No. So don't know why those are there, but they're just there. Maybe they're just an element of this hotel room. Okay, so he doesn't come back. We go over to the place and boom, find out that he is over there. What are you talking about? The dock's right over there. He jacked the price up on me. He's trying to scam the scammers. And he doubles the price. Yeah, and he pulls out the greatest confidence man in history. I did look up, fucking hell. Never forget his name again. Who? What's his actual name? Yeah, Hideyoshi Toyotomi, who ruled right after Nobunaga and was called the Great Uniter because he united a lot of the feudal kingdoms of Japan, which is super cool. I don't know if he was a con man. It's an interesting perspective. Perhaps It's an element of seeing the world the way that you want to see the world, right? It's convenient for him to believe and to identify with this character from legend, from almost mythology, from historical mythology, who united everybody and was viewed as a hero. It's helpful to view him as a con man, because I don't know if he was a con man. Give me a second. I'm going to read up history. Let me read a couple dozen pages of Wikipedia or something. There is one element, which is that many legends describe Hideyoshi as being sent to a temple to study, but then rejecting temple life and going off in search of adventure. That's interesting. He did eventually serve a daimyo, Imagawa Yoshimoto, and then served there for a time, and then absconded with a sum of money entrusted to him by Matsushita Yukitsuna. Became a member of Nobunaga's sandal bearers, a position of status. Very successful as a negotiator. Managed to convince with liberal bribes a number of Mino warlords to desert the enemy. Okay, there are some elements here. He also changed his name. So there are some elements there that you can certainly, if you want to, read as being a bit of a con man. So that's interesting. That's good. That's cool. All right, so this is my game now. You're my bitch, Laurent. I don't think so, man. I think you should probably try to learn more from this guy instead of trying to compete with him. But I appreciate the idea that's present here, which is that, he tries to compete still. That's cool. I think this is a really, 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 we get to the end, right? That's basically where we end. Foot massage, end. I think this is a really extraordinarily good episode. I think the setup of his past rings so perfectly. I think the elements of conning that we see are still excellent. They were good in the first episode too, but they're excellent here. I think that the disillusionment that we see as he loses everything, his naivete is crushed by the world's realities and by coming into contact with an active cheater and liar and realizing that this world works that way, and then being crushed by the systems that are supposed to uphold justice and truth, and then being constantly having it thrown in his face, you're dishonest, you're a liar, destructive, crushing, and then he loses his mom, right? It's all these layers of things. I know that feeling of a downward spiral where everything seems to be against you, and then you start losing things that are important to you. It's what crushed me. It's what destroyed me. Not that long ago, before I started the channel, was that kind of a downward spiral. That feeling of everything seems unfair. And it was my own naivete, right? My own lack of understanding that there are vicious elements in this world, that this world is hard. And a lot of that comes from my own shelteredness, which is exactly what we see here. I wonder how he'll build himself back up and what he will become as he does. Because he's not exactly surrounded by pinnacles of righteousness. And so this is going to be an interesting story. But I think we've managed to isolate it down to its core, which is that this is a story of someone who has lost their sense of any sort of meaning in this world, and they will begin to find meaning in this team and the work that they do while doing things that are probably not good. And that's very interesting. I think this is a really, really fascinating setup. And I think that the authors, I'm going to look it up. Who's writing? Is it one person credited? Is it multiple people writing it? I don't know. So the whole script is Ryoto Kosawa, which I think we looked up before, who's done a couple of screenplays before. So it's hard to say. I would guess that Kosawa-san is not writing all of it solo. That a lot of this goes through a sort of a thought process, a committee groupthink process, which I think is valuable. I think it's important. But I can't confirm that. Regardless, the authors have demonstrated a really, really clever ability to write interesting characters with their own interesting perspectives on the world, which clash. And that they clash in interesting ways is fantastic. And that seems to be the core here, because I'm interested in these people and the way that they live their lives, fictional or not. I'm very interested in them. They fit variations on archetypes that I'm familiar with in ways that I'm unfamiliar with, and that's very exciting to me. Cool. I think that's my whole piece on Great Pretender episode 2. It's been an hour and 40 minutes of discussion. Jesus. I hope you've enjoyed it. I think this was a good one, because I think there was a lot to unpack here, and I think I've done an interesting job of unpacking it. So I hope it's been interesting to you. That is my goal here, is to talk about things that I'm thinking about, and talk about them in hopefully an interesting and valuable way that makes you either see this piece of media in a different way, or perhaps, if possible, and I think this would be wonderful, see yourself and your relationship to media and your relationship to the world in a different way. I think those are all good things that I can potentially accomplish through silly YouTube videos. Regardless, I hope you've enjoyed. If you did enjoy, and if you want to help me keep doing this kind of stuff, check out the Patreon. It's linked in the description. Throwing me $1 gets you access to the Discord, which is a place where you can hang out and talk about anime. And throwing me $5 gets you early access to the videos, which is super nice. And you can get next week's episode or episodes of The Great Pretender a little bit early, along with all the other things that I watch. Yeah. So if you want to do that, thank you. That would be great. And thank you to all of those of you who already support me. It's super appreciated. If you can't do that, or you just don't want to, that's okay. If you could throw a like on the video, that helps it get out to more people. And if you could throw comments on the video, that also helps it get out to more people. But if you also have interesting things to say, write those in the comments, because I read them and I'll respond to them, and that would be great. Please don't spoil stuff. It would be very helpful if you just don't spoil things that aren't, I haven't seen yet, because I want to experience them firsthand, and I want to experience them as we watch through it, and that's more fun. And it's a better experience for everybody. So that would be appreciated. Regardless, that's going to be a wrap for me. I've been Teeaboo. This has been Great Pretender episode 2. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you've enjoyed the discussion. Also, I hope to catch you next week for more episodes. See you there. Peace.